Good Monday morning, everybody, and welcome once again to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. And Lenny, thank you for a great start to what I hope is a great week for not only fantasy but for reality. Let's have a great one, okay? And let's start this out by saying that it's time for Major League Baseball to come out of hibernation. Let's go, guys. Enough talk. I'm not going to sit here and talk about what they should do and what's happening because you know what they should do, play. And you know what's happening, they're not. So it's just time to get off the schneid and let's do something. This is absolutely the most ridiculous thing I've seen in a long time. Oh, by the way, I'm still waiting for my King Hat t-shirt that I still don't have. I want to thank you guys for being in the chat room and online and amongst those millions of fans who are on podcasts across this great nation of ours this morning as we start yet another week, mid-June already. Can you believe it? It's June 15th and we're right in the middle of nothing. Yeah, no baseball, nothing going on sports-wise. So we're going to talk about a few things this morning. I saw George say earlier he can't wait for fantasy football. And Lenny was talking about this dual baseball fantasy football league. I think it would absolutely drive me crazy trying to figure it out. But I'll give you some players this morning that I think you ought to be looking for as dark horses in fantasy football. Okay? I'm going to talk about 5 quick players, and we're going to go from there. And I'm first going to start with a running back out of Indianapolis, and I think when you get into what's going on with him, you'll see why I think he's probably a player that you want to look at, and it's Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, just recently drafted by the Indianapolis Colts, number 6 all-time rusher in NCAA history, first player to rush for more than 6,000 yards in a 3-year span. That's right. And he was taken in the second round of this year's draft, 41st overall by the Indianapolis Colts. Now, you think, well, they've already got running backs, but not a running back like Jonathan Taylor. Okay? Taylor's going to be a star in the NFL, and I think he's going to play this year. All right, he would have been, barring an injury, the all-time leading rusher in NFL history had he stayed his last year. Again, over 2,000 yards each of his first 3 years. Check this out. 926 times he rushed the ball. 6,174 yards. That's a 6.7 per carry average. 50 touchdowns, 42 receptions for 407 more yards, and 5 scores through the air. Of course, he was in the Heisman Trophy discussion, earned a lot of honors. His next honor could very well be the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. He was ranked in the top 3 candidates to win that award. I just think Taylor is going to be a star. Now, the Colts finished in 2019. The Colts finished number 7 in the league after averaging 133.1 rushing yards per game, barely putting them outside the top 5. They went over 2,000 rushing yards on the season for the first time since 1994, and they had Marlon Mack, who was a 1,000-yard rusher, the first time they had a 1,000-yard rusher since 2007. They had the second best run-blocking unit in the NFL in 2019. They had a grade of 85.1, finished second in first downs, converted by runs, 5th in carries per game, tied for 5th in runs of 20-plus yards or more, 14. Tied for 9th in runs of 40-plus yards, 3, and 10th in runs of 10 yards plus, 53. You can tell I've done my homework this morning, right? Now, they have all 5 starting offensive linemen remaining. Left guard Quentin Nelson's 90.1 run blocking grade ranked 3rd among all NFL offensive linemen in 2019. Right tackle Braden Smith's 86.4 grade, ranked 5th. Center Ryan Kelly's 74.6, ranked 14th. Left tackle Anthony Castanenzo's 70.2, ranked 22nd. That's 4 offensive linemen who are among the NFL's top 25 run blockers. They also, the Colts, added a fullback this year in Roosevelt Nix and another tight end in Trey Burton to pair up with Jack Doyle and Mo Ali Cox. Nix has only played 115 snaps over the last 2 years, but he made the Pro Bowl last season. Burton and Doyle were number 1 and number 4 rated running tight ends in NFL in 2018. So when you look at all of these factors, and Marlon Mack, remember, has been injured, I think Jonathan Taylor is a dark horse to not only win Rookie of the Year, but Jonathan Taylor also could lead the league in rushing. No joke. So if you're looking at fantasy football and players to watch, I first got to talk about Taylor. Now, another player, another running back I want to talk about is out of Baltimore, J.K. Dobbins. Now, I know when you talk about J.K. Dobbins, you think about playing opportunity. At least that's where I am. Will he get the opportunity? Well, the answer is yes, okay, because the cream rises to the top. And J.K. Dobbins going to Baltimore out of Ohio State, 21 years of age, 5'10", 212 pounds. What does J.K. stand for, by the way? Does anybody know? Jacalyn Dobbins, born December 17, 1998. That's what it stands for, Jacalyn Dobbins. And he's going to go to Baltimore. We know they have Mark Ingram, but face it, Mark Ingram is not a full-time back. Dobbins is. Dobbins is going to get opportunity. He'll push the Ravens over the top. There you go. You know, last year they had MVP Lamar Jackson at quarterback. They went 14-2, upset by Tennessee in the divisional round. Experts have raved over the Ravens draft this year, praising Baltimore's draft for several dynamic skill positions, but the one at the top is J.K. Dobbins. The 55th pick overall in the second round. Now, last year the Ravens set a record for rushing yards in a season with 3,296 yards. Okay? That's a lot of rushing yards, folks. And of all of the backs coming out of the draft, everyone kept looking at J.K. Dobbins. Ohio State. Remember, just a few years ago, Ohio State, another really good running back. What was his name? It was Ezekiel Elliott. And he went to Dallas. And we kind of know how that went. So, Dobbins, explosive. He had 194 carries last year, 1,403 yards, 7.2 yards per carry, by the way. 7 touchdowns through 14 games. He split time in 2018, so he's not been, shall we say, worn out at the position. But when you look at, I think I said it wrong a minute ago, that was his first year, 2017, where he had 1,403 yards. I'm sorry. Last year, 2019, my 7 and my 9 kind of look the same. Dobbins, 301 carries, 2,003 yards, 6.7 yards per carry, 21 touches, scores in 14 games. Great vision. He's going to play in Baltimore a lot this year. So, Lenny, if it's not too late to pick up players, look at Taylor in Indianapolis at running back. Look at J.K. Dobbins in Baltimore. Look at Cam Akers for the Los Angeles Rams. I'm just giving you a little taste this morning Just a little sample of what you might get from me come football season. Cam Akers, drafted out of Florida State. Yes, a Seminole, 20 years old, 5'10", 216 pounds. How good was he at Florida State? He was really good. He's going to have a big 2020. The Rams, packed up Todd Gurley, sent him away. Now Cam Akers is in. He's better than anything they have. He played 3 seasons for the Seminoles at Florida State. He had 3,361 yards from scrimmage, 34 touchdowns. He averaged 5.1 yards per carry every time he touched the football. Yes, he did. He was a second-round selection. Very similar physically to Marshall Faulk. Both 5'10". Both weighing in the 210 range. Akers, like Faulk, has the ability to be the same type of dual threat, rushing and receiving. And if you're in a PPR league, we know how big those running backs can be who can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's got to be on your radar drafting this year in fantasy. So those are my 3 running backs: Taylor, Robbins, Akers. And now I want to talk about the tight end position for just a moment. And I've got 2 I want to talk about that I think are really going to surprise you this year. Maybe not, but they're going to be really good. Let's talk about first Mr. Andrews for the Ravens. Mark Andrews, 23 years old, last year for Baltimore. Sort of a breakout year, you might say. 64 receptions, 852 yards. He averaged 13.3 yards per catch. His longest was for 51 yards, and he scored 10 touchdowns, catching the ball through the air. Now he could be even more in line for more production. Why is that? Well, the Falcons lost Pro Bowl tight end Austin Hooper to the Cleveland Browns. Okay? And they go out and they pick up Hayden Hurst, who's going to be the other tight end I talk about, from Baltimore, who was splitting time. Now Hayden Hurst is in Atlanta. Mark Andrews is the starting tight end with no one to rival him for playing time in Baltimore. Hurst caught 30 passes for 349 yards last year and 2 touchdowns. If you consider that those targets may go mostly to Andrews, then Andrews is set to catch around 80 to 90 balls this year. He's probably going to at least meet the 10 touchdowns he scored last year, and he should have more yards receiving. Baltimore used tight ends more than any other team in the NFL last year. Yeah, I know they're a running team. But it's also easy when you're a running team to have the tight end released on play action, release out of the line, and catch that 10, 15-yard pass with regularity. Andrews had 98 targets last year. Marquise Brown targeted 71 times. Willie Snead 46 times. Boyle 43 and Hurst 39. Kind of a street ball attitude in Baltimore, but it's a street ball attitude that plays right into the hands of Mark Andrews. And he may be a name that you don't hear a lot about, but you will this year. And you've heard it from me this morning. So finally, my 5th. This is my top 5. Come on. You got to be into this, right? Hayden Hurst going to Atlanta. Going to Atlanta where now he will take the place of Austin Hooper.